Ah, come closer, my dear. Yes, right here beside the lamp. Let the night wrap itself gently around us. Because tonight, I want to tell you a story I have never shared with anyone else. It is a story from long, long ago, back when forests were deeper, when the stars hung lower, and when magic, the quiet kind of magic, still wandered the earth without anyone trying to chase it. This story is about a creature that most people believe is only a myth, a whisper, a bedtime tale made to ease the heart. But I have seen it with my own eyes. They call it the lantern fox. Now don't let the name fool you. This fox is not made of shadows and teeth like the kind you hear about in scary tales. No, this fox glows. Yes, glows. Its fur carries a soft, golden shimmer like embers of a fire drifting upward on a quiet winter night. And on its tail, oh, its tail, hangs a tiny lantern that never goes out, no matter how fierce the wind, no matter how heavy the rain. Some say the lantern was gifted by the moon. Others say the fox was born from a fallen star. But the truth is gentler than that. The lantern fox appears only to those whose hearts have wandered just a little too far. Those who've grown tired, or lost, or quietly forgotten how to find their way home. And this tale begins on a night much like this one, with the world wrapped in silver mist, and the forest humming with that deep, ancient calm that only midnight knows. I was young then, far younger than I am now, wandering the old path that stretched beyond the valley. I remember the sky above me shining with 1,000 patient stars, and the moon resting low as if watching over my steps. I didn't mean to walk too far, but life sometimes carries us farther than we meant to go. I walked until the familiar trees became strange, until the steady trail beneath my boots faded into soft moss and broken roots, until even the wind felt like it was whispering my name in a language I didn't fully understand. And then the forest grew dark. Not frightening dark, no, but the kind of dark that makes you realize how small you are in a world far older than your worries. My lantern had gone out hours before. The stars were hidden behind drifting clouds, and the path, if there ever was one, had vanished. I remember standing there feeling the kind of quiet fear that is shaped not by danger, but by uncertainty. And just when the darkness pressed a little too close, I saw it. A faint glow, soft, golden, like the shimmer of a candle breathing in the wind. It floated between the trees, moving gracefully, neither fast nor slow, as if it knew I would follow no matter what. And when it stepped into the clearing, I saw the shape of it, small, agile, with fur that glimmered like powdered starlight, and a lantern swaying gently from the plume of its tail. The lantern fox. It looked at me, not with fear, not with challenge, but with eyes full of knowing, deep, golden knowing. And in that moment, I felt something inside me loosen. A knot I hadn't realized was there unraveled softly, as if the fox had tugged on a thread woven through my heart. The fox turned, and its lantern cast a soft halo that brushed the moss, lit the roots, and revealed the faintest outline of a hidden path. And then it walked, one quiet step at a time. Without thinking, I followed. The forest shifted around us, ancient trunks leaning in as if listening, ferns trembling as we passed, the night air growing warmer with each small stride. The fox's lantern didn't blaze. It didn't push back the dark. Instead, it softened it, turned it gentle. As we wandered, I began to hear things I hadn't noticed before. The hum of distant water, the heartbeat of the earth beneath my feet, and the soft rustle of leaves like whispers of stories older than memory. And the fox, not once did it look back in worry. It simply trusted I would follow, as though it knew the quiet ache in my chest, knew how lost I felt, knew the heaviness I carried even when no one else could see it. Finally, we reached a small clearing where the moon broke through the clouds and painted the world in silver. The fox's lantern flickered, not in weakness, but in invitation. And in that glow, I saw something I will never forget. But that, my dear, that part of the tale must wait for another moment. For stories like this unfold best not all at once, but gently, softly, like the steady glow of the lantern fox's tail. Rest now. Let your breath fall easy. Now then, my dear, settle yourself a little more. Let your shoulders loosen, and let the quiet of the night wrap around you like a shawl made of starlight. Because the next part of this tale is where the forest begins to shift into something far more extraordinary. When the lantern fox led me to that moonlit clearing, I remember feeling the air change. Not colder, not warmer, but heavier, as if the forest itself was holding its breath in anticipation. The ground under my boots softened, turning from earth into a bed of pale moss that glowed faintly under the fox's golden lantern. It felt as though I was walking on a cloud that had settled for the night. And above me, the moon seemed to lower itself closer and closer, until its light touched the tops of the trees like a gentle hand stroking the world to sleep. The lantern fox paused at the heart of the clearing, its tail swaying lightly, the lantern's glow shimmering like a heartbeat made of light. I stood there, unable to speak, as the fox lifted its small head toward me. And when its eyes met mine, those deep, golden eyes, I felt something I still cannot put into words, even after all these years. It was not fear. It was not awe. It was something gentler, something like recognition. As if the fox knew me long before I ever stepped into that forest. As if it saw the tired places inside me, the ones even I pretended not to notice. And then it turned its gaze toward the far side of the clearing. That's when the forest began to move. At first I thought it was only the wind, brushing through the branches with that ancient voice only old forests know. But no, this was something else. The trees themselves were shifting. Not uprooting, not walking, but swaying in a way that was far too deliberate to be nature alone. Their branches bent forward, forming soft arches overhead like a hallway made of woven starlight and old wood. And the moss beneath my feet brightened with each breath I took, as if responding to the very rhythm of my heart. The fox walked to the edge of this glowing path and paused again, glancing back at me with an expression I could only interpret as, "Follow me, but gently." I stepped forward, and the moment I did, the air changed once more. It felt thick with memory, as though the forest was carrying stories older than language, older than time. The fox moved gracefully ahead, its lantern glowing brighter now, spreading warm gold across the bark of ancient trees that looked as though they had seen 1,000 lifetimes. And then I began to hear something. At first, it was only a hum, soft, low, hardly distinguishable from the quiet breath of the forest. But soon, that hum became music. Not the kind played by instruments, nor sung by any human voice, but a melody woven from the rustle of leaves, the gentle rise of the wind, and the whisper of moss beneath my boots. A lullaby, sung by the forest itself. I felt tears prick the corners of my eyes, not from sadness, but from a softness I hadn't known in years. The fox continued along the glowing path, and I followed, breathing slowly, letting the melody cradle my thoughts like waves carrying driftwood toward a quiet shore. I didn't speak. I didn't dare. The forest felt too sacred for words. After some time, minutes, hours, we reached a place where the trees parted once more, revealing a narrow stream that glowed faintly blue, as if moonlight had slipped beneath the water and decided to stay. The lantern fox approached the stream and dipped its head, letting the light from its tail lantern touch the surface. And when it did, the water responded. Ripples of shimmering light spread outward, illuminating stones beneath the current that glowed like polished silver. And between those stones, I saw reflections. Not of the trees, not of the sky, not even of myself. What I saw were moments, memories, tiny fragments of lives that had once wandered through the forest. A child releasing a lantern into the summer sky, a pair of travelers laughing beside a crackling fire, an old woman sitting beneath a willow tree with eyes full of forgiveness. And then, a flicker of something that made my breath catch. A moment of my own. A memory I hadn't thought about in decades. One I had tucked so far away, I almost believed it belonged to someone else. It showed me, a younger version of myself, standing alone at dusk, holding an unlit lantern, my face unsure, my hands trembling. I remembered that day, how lost I felt, how small, how desperately I wished for some kind of guidance. And now, years later, a fox with a glowing lantern stood before me as if answering a wish I had made without words. The fox looked up at me, its lantern flickering gently in the quiet breeze. And though it did not speak, I understood. Some creatures guide with maps, some with stars, some with wisdom spoken aloud. But the lantern fox, guides with light for the places inside us that are too dark to walk alone. And that night, in that glowing clearing, I realized the fox was not leading me through the forest. It was leading me through myself. The stream shimmered, the trees hummed softly, the path ahead glowed faintly, and the fox, tail lantern swaying like a heartbeat made of gold, turned once more and began to walk deeper into the forest's most hidden places. And I knew that I had to follow.
Now then, my dear, get comfortable again. Sink just a bit deeper into whatever you're resting on, because the place the fox led me next is unlike anything ordinary eyes could ever hope to see.
We left the stream behind, its glowing current still whispering softly as though it was telling stories to the stones and roots it touched. And as we walked deeper into the forest, the air began to change once more, growing warmer, gentler, almost like stepping into the heartbeat of something ancient. The path ahead of us was no longer made of dirt or moss, but of tiny lights, millions of them, fluttering just above the ground like fireflies too shy to lift themselves into the sky. They brushed against my boots with the softness of falling petals, and each time they touched me, they shimmered brighter before melting back into the air. The lantern fox walked with a grace I had not noticed before. Its paws no longer pressed the earth, they glided, barely touching the illuminated path, as if it belonged more to light than to fur and bone. Every so often, the fox would turn its head ever so slightly, golden eyes checking to make sure I was still behind it, not out of worry, but out of a quiet tenderness that I still remember more vividly than the brightest sunrise. And then, just ahead, past a curtain of gently swaying branches, I saw a faint glow. Not the fox's lantern, but something grander, wider, as though the very horizon had begun to breathe light. As we stepped through the branches, the forest opened into a vast clearing bathed entirely in silver-blue radiance. It wasn't moonlight, not exactly. It wasn't starlight, nor lantern light, nor the glow of any flame. It was something older, something softer, a kind of glow that felt like memory itself, warm where it touched the skin, and achingly gentle where it touched the heart. At the center of the clearing stood a great tree, tall enough to brush the sky, wide enough that 20 people couldn't wrap their arms around it. Its trunk shimmered faintly with threads of gold, and its leaves glowed like droplets of light caught in a breeze that whispered secrets older than stories. This, my dear, was the heartroot tree, a tree said to grow only where the forest stores the deepest memories of those who walk its paths. The fox stopped at its base, lantern swaying gently, casting warm gold onto the roots that curled like sleeping serpents around the earth. And then, with the softest motion, the lantern on its tail brightened, its light growing warm, warmer still, until it pulsed gently like a heartbeat. When the glow touched the trunk of the tree, the heartroot responded. I watched, unable to breathe, as shimmering patterns crawled slowly up the bark, shapes like ancient runes or constellations, or perhaps something that belonged to both. The bark peeled open, not breaking, but unfolding like the pages of a book that had been waiting for curious hands. And inside the tree, was light. Not blinding light, not harsh light, but the kind that holds warmth like a memory you once loved but forgot to revisit. The lantern fox stepped into that glow, its small form outlined by waves of soft amber and pale silver. And it turned to me with an expression I can only describe as gentle urging, as though it was saying, "Come, there is something here for you." So I stepped closer, and the moment I did, the world shifted. It felt as though the ground beneath me had vanished, not falling, not collapsing, just dissolving into a weightless warmth. And suddenly, I wasn't standing in a clearing anymore. I was standing inside a memory. Not the forest's memory, not someone else's, but mine. The air shimmered around me, turning into images, some sharp, some blurry, some carrying the warmth of laughter, others the sting of silence. I saw myself as a child, chasing lanterns in the summer night, believing the world was gentle and full of soft corners. I saw moments I had tucked away for decades, moments of fear, moments of hope, moments of choices that shaped the person I eventually became. And through all of it, the fox's lantern glow was there, warming the scenes, guiding my gaze toward the places I was afraid to look. It showed me not my mistakes, but the parts of myself that survived them. It showed me not my regrets, but the strength I didn't realize those regrets had given me. And I realized my steps felt lighter, my breath felt deeper, my heart felt quieter. The fox stepped beside me, nudged my hand, its fur warm like sunrise.
Now then, my dear, we've come a long way together tonight, walking through forests of light and memory, following the small, quiet steps of a creature made of warmth and wonder. And this last part, this final chapter, is where the forest shows its gentlest truth. The lantern fox continued leading me far beyond the heartroot tree, deeper and deeper into the quietest part of the woods, a place where even the wind chose to tread softly, as though afraid to disturb whatever tenderness lived there. The fox's lantern glowed brighter now, not fiercely, not urgently, but with the steady calm of something that knows exactly where it is going. I followed, my steps unhurried, my breath aligned with the forest, my heart no longer weighed down by the heaviness I once carried. The trees grew thinner, their branches arching overhead to form a ceiling of trembling silver leaves that shimmered softly each time the fox's lantern swayed. And then, after a long stretch of gentle walking, the trees opened into a meadow, a wide, quiet bowl of earth bathed in moonlight so soft it looked like powdered snow floating on water. At the center of the meadow stood a stone archway, not carved, not built, but shaped naturally, as though the earth itself had risen from the ground to create a frame for something unseen. The archway wasn't tall, nor was it imposing. It was humble, soft, its surface covered in glowing moss and drifting specks of golden dust that floated lazily in the night air. The fox approached it, lantern glowing warmer now,
casting ripples of gold across the soft grass. And when I stepped beside it, I noticed something unusual, something I hadn't felt in all the years I'd walked the forest. There was warmth coming from the archway. Not heat, not fire, but warmth like a memory, a feeling of being welcomed, expected, understood. The fox sat in front of the archway, looking up at me with eyes full of something that felt both ancient and impossibly kind. And then, for the first time, it bowed its head. I knelt beside it, unsure what to do, until the fox gently touched its lantern to the base of the stone, and the archway opened. No doors swung wide, no magic burst forth. Instead, the space inside the archway filled with a soft, golden mist, a light so gentle that my eyes relaxed just looking at it. It wasn't a portal to another world. It wasn't a doorway to somewhere far away. It was a doorway inward. A doorway to the place in my heart I had forgotten how to visit. The fox nudged me gently, not pushing, not insisting, just encouraging me to look. And when I did, I saw something I never expected. I saw myself, not as I had been, not as I feared to become, not as the world expected, but as I truly was. A softer me, a quieter me, a me unburdened by old expectations and tired worries. I saw the part of myself that still believed in gentle things, in warm hands, in morning light, in forgiveness, in small joys that grow like wildflowers in the cracks of hard days. And as I watched, that quiet version of myself lifted their gaze and smiled. That smile, it felt like coming home. The fox stepped beside me, lantern resting gently against my leg, and in that moment, it didn't feel like a guide or a magical creature, that I was never truly lost. Not in the forest, not in the world, not in myself. The golden mist in the archway faded, and the meadow grew quiet once more, peaceful, still, soft as a lullaby. The fox's lantern dimmed to a calm, warm glow. It circled me once, its tail brushing lightly against my hand, and then it stepped away. It walked back to the edge of the forest, its light swaying gently, 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 until it blended with the trees. I wanted to call out to it, but something in my chest, something newly softened, told me not to. The fox had guided me exactly as far as I needed to go, and now the rest of the journey was mine to walk. So I turned back toward the forest, the memory of that golden archway warm inside my chest, and with steps lighter than any I'd taken before, I began my walk home. And you, my dear, as you rest now, as your eyelids grow heavy and your breath grows soft, remember this story. There will always be a lantern fox inside you, a quiet, glowing guide leading you back to the gentlest parts of who you are. Now close your eyes. Let the night settle around you. and rest in the warm glow of the lantern you carry within.